Hello and welcome to World Stories. I'm Layla Harak with your International Reporter Show. In the next half hour, we'll create a mythical Mongolian drink and watch the power of television at work in Mexico. We'll also see how Roma in Hungary are using the stage to challenge stereotypes and meet a Mauritanian man sticking his neck out for some of the world's most ancient animals. But first, it's been nearly 2 years since a series of earthquakes devastated Christchurch in New Zealand. The city still bears the scars of the quakes, but where mangled buildings, vacant lots, and rubble once stood, community gardens and public parks now bloom. We're not talking your average vegetable patches, oh no. As CTV's Marcus Gibbs shows us, while Christchurch is still recovering, grassroots initiatives are giving residents a creative outlet, encouraging them to get together and perhaps more importantly, reminding them that better times lie ahead.
This is Christchurch, just weeks after a devastating earthquake ripped through the heart of the city. But rather than leaving holes where buildings once stood, citizens got together to fill them. And Greening the Rubble are two organisations working to bring creative life back to the city.
I always thought that this kind of activity had a lot of potential, and I could see that it could be really positive for Christchurch.
Gapfill has been working since September 2010. From small beginnings, they've grown dramatically.
I never imagined we'd have a little office. I never imagined that we would have a small team of people. Like now there are 3 people actually working now, which is, I just think that's amazing that we've actually, through doing this work, it's actually been able to create jobs for people.
They've been busy developing dozens of small projects, from giant murals on the sides of buildings to dance floors powered by a washing machine. There's something for everyone, and it's the simplest things like this fridge filled with books proving most popular.
The book exchange has been really successful, really amazing. It's very simple. It costs $50, but for the way that it's been adopted by the community and used, it gets used, and I'm not exaggerating, at least I'd say 10 times a day. I'm really not exaggerating, it gets used that much.
We came to the opening of that, and I've just been amazed. Just about every time you come around this corner, there's been someone there taking in or taking out a book.
Gapfiller's work quickly spread to the neighbouring towns of Kaiapoi and Littleton. Their tiny office is based in the suburb of Sydenham, along with another organisation called Greening the Rubble.
We had individuals who really wanted to see more community gardens in the city. Christchurch called itself the Garden City for rather a long time, and they wanted it forgotten. They wanted to make more gardens here. And we had people who wanted to put something back in to reconnect with the city that they loved and was so badly damaged.
We've got so few gathering places. There's nothing left, nowhere to meet, and so it's been good. It's been really good to have these.
Like Gapfiller, the group's non-profit. Both are working with the community to turn wasted sites into beautiful projects.
We actually had dangerous brick walls along this back edge, which we as volunteers had to take down. We got scaffolding loaned to us free and brought it down brick by brick carefully. We had to wait for the building work to be done to make good the space here and the flat above, and then we could come in and make the gardens.
In 2011, a group of budding gardeners, ecologists and landscape designers came together and built their first park. The idea quickly spread, and now material salvaged from earthquake-damaged buildings is being turned from something broken into something new.
We've got broken bricks from buildings that were knocked down by the quakes. We've got second-hand pallets that have been used to make paving and other surfaces.
Sites can be found in pockets right around the city, and they're constantly moving as property owners start to rebuild.
HECO still owns the site, and they are committed to rebuilding on the site. So this site is here for as long as it takes until they rebuild. So if they rebuild next month, we have to demolish it and move on. If they rebuild in 3 years' time, well, there's been a great garden in that time and a space where people can come and enjoy the space.
Because they're temporary sites, we can experiment, we can make mistakes, we can try out new ideas, we can be a bit artistic and unusual, and do it because we have the loan of the land temporarily and it goes back later to the owners and they redevelop it. The passing public turn into volunteers, that's one good indicator, so people come by and come and help us. We've got others who come by and say things like, it'll never work, and you see them 3 weeks later and we built a park and they say, goodness.
Oh, they're very important. Places for people to get together, places for people to feel there's something happening.
This site is popular with chess lovers, while ballet dancers took over this one for practice. Next door to Gapfilla's office is a greening the rubble garden that's been adopted by the community.
Projects like that, they look good, they function, they work, they have a use, they are sharing a commercial space which helps the business, and we've even managed to get in little bits of detail, like we put a seat right by the bus stop there, so the bus travellers get a seat. That's working landscape, that's landscaping that's providing a public service as well as looking beautiful.
Other displays have become a place for people out walking to stop and appreciate the beauty. In the seaside suburb of Sumner, containers protecting the road from the cliffs above have been covered with works of art. Gapfilla and Greening the Rubble are influencing other groups too. This cleared site has become a temporary football field in a matter of weeks. These creative groups are shaping the rebuild. There's a plan in place to re-establish the city, but for now these projects will do just fine.
Well, in Mongolia, horses are revered by the country's nomadic herders. They ride them, they eat them, and they also drink their milk. The national beverage of Mongolia is fermented mare's milk called airag, also known as kumis. The Venetian explorer Marco Polo tried it on his travels through the country and is said to have compared it to white wine. For others, though, airag is an acquired taste and often described as sour and gamey. Still, it's the way for hosts to honor their guests in Mongolia. TMTV's Tamira Jambal shows us how this specialty is made.
The Mongolian steppes are home to nomads who have been wandering this vast land for millennia. Horses are an integral part of their culture. The animals are used for transportation. They're sometimes slaughtered for their meat. But one of their main functions is to produce the milk that's used to make airag, a staple food for Mongolians and the country's national drink. The Otgonbayer family lives outdoors on the Mongolian steppes, and they know a thing or two about making airag. Made of fermented mare's milk, the drink has a horsey smell and a slightly sour taste. It contains a small amount of alcohol and is very refreshing. It takes skill and experience to produce the perfect batch of airag.
First, you have to allow the foal to suckle, then you can start milking. If you don't, then the milk won't flow. You have to milk fast if you want a lot of it. This year, we're milking 8 mares. We have to milk them every 2 hours, 5 to 6 times a day. That way, we get 30 litres a day.
It's hard work, but the end result is well worth it. After each milking session, the yield is taken into the family home, called a yurt. There it's filtered through a cloth and allowed to cool off before being poured into a large leather sack called a kurkur. After 1 or 2 days of fermentation, the airag is ready to enjoy. It's typical for the whole family and their friends to enjoy a drink together. It's traditionally served in large bowls.
We've been drinking airag in Mongolia since the time of Genghis Khan. In the middle of June, the mares are captured and milked, and airag is then made from their milk. It's made without the addition of a yeast culture. It's not generally sold, but drunk by the family and offered to guests. It can also be used as a medicine. The raw mare's milk itself has medicinal value. You can rub Irag onto the chests and backs of small children and allow it to soak into their skin in the summer sun. That stops them from getting colds and chest infections in the winter.
During the summer, the family members spent a lot of their time milking their horses. Much of the equipment necessary for the production of Irag is handmade.
We make the kukur from cowhide. We put the mare's milk in it and churn it vigorously with a wooden plunger called a bulur.
The more you churn it, the better the Irag tastes.
Of the 5 kinds of livestock we breed, only foals are born with a special enzyme in their mouths. We use it to ferment Irag. When the foal is born, we collect it, and some of it ends up in our Irag.
The nomads cherish their traditional Mongolian culture, but life here on the steppes is changing fast. Like many other animal breeders, the Otkan buyers are in the process of converting hundreds of hectares of steppe into arable farmland to grow potatoes and grain. But one thing that won't change is the family's love for Irag.
Well, some of us may have learned our first letters and numbers from television shows. And in Mexico, the land of soap operas, watching television is becoming the ticket to a better future for countless high school students. Those from disadvantaged backgrounds attend telesecundaria schools that teach traditional subjects like maths and history with the help of television. Students follow lessons via a television on the classroom wall with a teacher close at hand for further explanation. And as Adrian Valle of Mexico's Televisión Educativa reports, the goal of the telesecundaria schools is to close the gap between those that have and those that don't have access to education.
Television plays a key role in education in Mexico. Much of the country is sparsely populated, and providing education to youngsters in remote rural communities would be virtually impossible without it. Launched in the 1960s, the Telesecundaria project harnesses the power of television to help school children in these areas. It's proved instrumental in providing education to the country's 116 million inhabitants. Several generations have already benefited from it. Marta is a good example. 33 years ago, she was educated using this system, and now she wants her own children to benefit from it too. Her twins, Maeli and Paula, go to Telesecundaria number 39, a school located in one of the poorest areas of Mexico City.
I went to telesecundaria myself. It's easier to follow the lessons. The teachers don't change all the time. We see the material on TV and then they explain it to us.
We're going to begin the lesson now. First, we'll watch the program. We're going to start with history.
Each telesecundaria group has just one teacher who covers all of the subjects. They're supported by TV programs specially designed for schools.
First, we watch the program, and then we use books to work through the various modules. Each module is broken down into sections, and each of those is divided into teaching units that we work through with the help of the television broadcasts and the written material and the textbooks.
Rosario is one of the 60,000 teachers working in the country's telesecundarias. She says the most important advantage of this method of teaching is the time it gives her to focus on the needs of individual students.
The system is much better. It allows us to focus much more on the different abilities of our pupils. It enables a more personal approach. Because we spend the whole day with the students, it's easier to link subjects together, which aids the learning process. We do that all day, every day.
Particular emphasis is placed on creating a sense of camaraderie among the pupils. They also learn IT skills in special workshops. Currently, there are around 18,000 telesecundarias in Mexico, with almost 1,300,000 pupils attending them. That's 21% of all state secondary school students in the country. These days, the programs are tailor-made to suit each different school subject. The organizers do their best to make them as attractive and interesting to the pupils as possible. The broadcasts are also designed to promote independent thinking. Students are encouraged to think for themselves, rather than just learn facts and figures off by heart.
I understand the subject better now. English, history, everything really. We watch the program, and then afterwards the teacher asks us questions. We join in, write summaries, and draw things relating to the topic.
I learn more from the programs, and the teacher also explains everything to us. First, we watch the broadcast, then we write down what we've understood, and the teacher asks us questions. We also work from a textbook.
The system's creators think it could become a leading method of teaching right across the world. Coupled with highly qualified teachers and well-equipped classrooms, they say it gives children the perfect start in life.
Well, next, the Roma community is considered one of the most shunned and marginalized minorities in Europe. Their treatment in recent years has made headlines around the world and caused an outcry among human rights advocates. Hungary is home to one of the largest Roma communities in Eastern Europe, and their position there is also precarious. Now, a Hungarian theater ensemble is staging a play to shine a spotlight on the humiliation and discrimination that Roma face every day. MTVA's Livia Bertha met up with the cast.
Today, the hero of our show is an 18-year-old Roma boy who grew up in state care.
The project is important in order to help develop positive interaction between Roma and non-Roma people. This performance, called The Show Goes On, features an 18-year-old Roma boy in Budapest who has to overcome many difficulties in life. One of my students plays the lead role, and other students of mine also have parts alongside professional actors.
Could I look around?
Sorry, but I didn't know. I didn't see it when you were talking on the phone. Oh no, will he ransack my apartment now?
Hello? Hello? So it's not easy to rent a room. Things are not always as easy as they seem.
How often do you experience the kind of scenarios that are depicted in the play?
They've happened quite often. Like recently, we weren't allowed into a nightclub. My girlfriend isn't a gypsy, but they just wouldn't let us in. Situations like that are embarrassing, and I can't do anything about them. Excuse me, are you closing?
No, but you can't come in the shop. Why? Because you can't come in here. You and your friends stole everything last week. Get out of here. No dogs are allowed in here either.
Theater is a form of art. It can tell a story using poetry and prose, and people will always be able to understand the message. You can set something in motion without really realizing it.
If you think he should stand up for his rights, hold up the red card. If you think it would be better if he just left, hold up the green card. Voting starts now. Almost every woman voted for him to stand up to the security guard. They may be right, because if he goes away, he admits that he's inferior, and with that attitude, he'll never fulfill his dreams.
I respect Dula because he works hard and then comes to rehearsals. He hasn't slept for 26 hours, but he's still here rehearsing. He's a role model.
Congratulations, Gabor. You've got the job. Please come over here.
Excuse me, was there anything wrong with my application?
No, your application was filled in correctly. We just want to employ one person. And that person is Gabor.
But he hasn't even finished primary school yet.
Thank you, Julia. Please leave now.
Tortoises are believed to have inhabited the planet as far back as the age of the dinosaurs. But today's tortoises are increasingly under threat and even face extinction in some parts of the world. In Mauritania, one man is giving baby tortoises the chance to survive. Bamba Ben Switat protects, breeds, and nurtures the endangered animals in a sanctuary he single-handedly created. As Mauritania's Alain reporter Yamin Abdou found out, there's been a boost in the local tortoise population, all thanks to his efforts.
This could well be the most famous tortoise in all of Mauritania. She was about to be served up as a meal when she was saved from the dinner plate by Bamba Ben Switat. Since that day 14 years ago, he's devoted his life to rescuing other threatened tortoises. For him, looking after these small creatures is a labor of love.
Looking after these tortoises requires a fair bit of money. So I keep them all in my home and look after them there. Some of them were sick when I took them in. So I have to look after them very carefully and help nurse them back to health.
Bamba Ben Switat founded a sanctuary to protect the tortoises. To make room for his new friends, he turned his backyard into a nature reserve. Looking after the tortoises requires lots of care and attention, but he gets a helping hand from his family. Bamba has tried to recreate the tortoises' natural habitat to make them feel at home. Some have successfully made it, and he intends to release the hatchlings back into the wild when they're ready. The goal is to help boost the tortoise population in Mauritania.
One female tortoise can produce 30 to 40 offspring, but some can produce many more. One of my tortoises, for example, once gave birth to 130 babies.
Not only tortoises call Bamba's nature reserve home, it also houses a wide range of flora and fauna, some of which you'd be hard-pressed to find elsewhere in the country.
This type of tree is nearly extinct in Mauritania. The one you see here was imported from neighboring Senegal. I'm very pleased to see that it's thriving in its new home.
Just outside the walls of Bamba's tortoise sanctuary in the capital Nouakchott, litter and garbage pile up, and rickety old cars pump out toxic gases. Bamba Ben Switat is sad at people's indifference to nature, but he hopes a visit to his sanctuary will go a long way to raising awareness.
And that's it for this edition of World Stories. From all of us here and our partner stations around the world, thanks for watching. And remember, to watch the show again, head over to our website at dw.de/worldstories. We're going to leave you now with this week's Picks of the World. See you next time.